I went through one of the darkest chapters in my life in 2019. I felt like, what's the point of waking up? I mean, that's how bad it got for me.
Today I'm joined by an amazing expert in mental fitness, leadership, and success coaching, the founder of the brand Inside and Out, and also the godmother of the UnMute podcast. Suchitra, how did you manage to bring yourself with more courage and ask what you need?
Once you start giving yourself permission, right, you start realizing that the courage is just a byproduct. So this is necessary for an entrepreneur. This is really important for someone who is building something in a state that's holding two contradictory emotions.
From mental fitness perspective, how is that really interconnected with powerful communication?
The first thing is to recognize that, I am speaking to myself in a way that's, bringing me down. And the best news, if that's going to relax everyone, is there's not a single person on this planet who doesn't have negative chatter. I've unmuted myself by really...
Welcome to UnMute, the space where we unlock the power of voice, mindset, and fearless communication. Today I'm joined by an amazing expert in mental fitness, leadership, and success coaching, the founder of the brand Inside and Out, and also the godmother of the UnMute podcast, Suchitra. Welcome on our podcast, because you've helped me birth the podcast, and I was buzzing. I was looking forward to unpack your amazing wisdom on mental fitness, to tell the world about the platform, the brand, the movement that you are creating from Dubai into the world, inside and out.
Oh my God. When you put it like that, it feels so special. And thank you so much for making the effort to introduce me that way. I also want to say, I think it's such an honor that I got to be in the hot seat of being a godmother to bringing Andrea and UnMute to life. I think that's such a privilege and an honor, and I'm really grateful.
We all need that best friend to give us a push, to nourish us, to be there by our side. I wanted to do this podcast for 2-3 years, and I've allowed myself to listen to voices saying there are so many podcasts out there, but I was yearning. I love having conversations and extracting and having conversations with people who are experts, and I'm all about helping people unmute, helping people be the best communicators, the best speakers. So, from mental fitness perspective,
yes,
how is that really interconnected with powerful communication? But before we unpack that big question, why mental fitness and why inside and out?
Oh, okay. So, I'll just give you a little backstory. So for myself, I think I went through one of the darkest chapters in my life in 2019. And during that phase in my life, I noticed that I needed to somehow show up for myself, even on days that I felt like, what's the point of waking up? I mean, that's how bad it got for me. And I realized that over a period of 10 months to a year, that I started to, genuinely see how much of value there is to looking within and to working on who am I, and wanting to really pursue that question with as much obsession, addiction, passion, like your career goals. And so I reached a place where I realized, actually, I am here because I showed up every single day, even more on days that I didn't feel like. So why are we calling this mental health, and why are we having an isolated, quieter experience? Why are we showing up for our mind, which very much behaves like a muscle, only when, pardon my French, but only when really bad moments hit us, right? Why does it have to be then? Why can't it be a practice of consistency and discipline like we all understand is necessary for our body?
You're an engineer, you have an amazing background in oil and gas, yet you shifted to well-being and mental fitness, building this incredible platform. You have a huge team. Why did you make this huge leap of careers, and how did that happen?
So, continuing from the story I just told you, I think a year into working on myself, I had this aha moment one day where I was like, you know what? Success until that point to me was really about hustling on the outside. Like, hitting those milestones that society or your parents or patriarchy or culture has defined as, you know what, I'm doing well. And I reached a place where I was ticking off all those boxes, and I basically got diagnosed with a burnout, which literally made me feel that I'm doing well in my financial bank account, but internally I'm empty. I'm feeling disconnected from everything. And so through this journey of working on myself, I realized that success is, being successful on your financial bank account, but also being successful on your emotional bank account. And so that's when I was like, I have to take this pain and make it my purpose. I have to build something out of this journey that shows me that I think success is very much about money. It is very much about your external hustle. It is about having the power to impact. But it's also about, in tandem, being in the pursuit of constantly discovering, who am I? When they all come together, that's when you're being and feeling successful.
When you were having the burnout, did you know it was a burnout or it was just exhaustion? How was it?
No, so actually, I was already probably behaving and carrying a lot of the symptoms of being burned out, but I didn't actually react until I started falling physically ill. So I was just constantly getting these, varying forms of illnesses like the cold and the flu and an eye infection and a back pain. And I am someone who takes care of myself. I work out, I eat well, I tend to be more conscious of my supplements and what I'm putting in my body. But I was just falling sick all the time. And so I went with this very superficial wanting to diagnose that, do I have something else going on with my immunity, or, is there any other parameter that needs to be checked? But it turned out that physically I'm fine. Every single thing in terms of, a medical check was perfect. It was really my cortisol, my hormones were the one doing the talking. And I didn't even go with that intention to think remotely that, oh, maybe I'm burning out. It was just, I think I'm not well. That's it. And then I didn't even know at that point that you can get diagnosed with a burnout. So it was a very educational moment for me.
And in what moment of you getting back on track, you said to yourself, oh, I'm taking all this learning and sharing it with thousands and millions, because you are also now launching the book and the journal. At what point you said, oh, I'm taking all the learning and transforming it into gold to serve others?
Actually, it's a very specific moment. It was like about maybe, say, 11 months into this journey. So when I did get diagnosed, I decided that I have no idea how I got here. I don't know how I got burned out. I really think I was living in autopilot. I didn't even recognize how I've sort of spoken to myself, exhausted myself, had these repeating, recurring dialogues that have deprecated me. I just don't think I had any awareness of myself at all in that sense. And so I decided that I don't know how I got here, so I'm going to gift myself a sabbatical, just call it Project Suchi, and really go down the path of understanding, who am I? So about 10 to 12 months down, it was my birthday, and I'd gone to Bali, and I'd basically fallen in love with nature, and I realized how much it heals me. And it was during one of these, ATV rides in the jungle where I just we finished the ride. It was this high adrenaline, feeling great. And I was having a conversation with my husband, and then he says, you know what? I've seen where you were and where you've come. You should build a tech solution based off what you're going through. And that's because I was always in tech in the oil and gas world. And it was like, take your past life and take your current life and marry them together. And I just brushed it off, but the seed was planted. And
thank you, husband.
Absolutely. This is a moment. Thank you so much, Anu. Thank you. But yeah, really, it was just that moment where I never thought to do something with it, but that conversation just, let the ball rolling, and then I just couldn't drop it anymore.
Mental fitness. What is mental fitness?
So, from a fitness standpoint, what you understand is I don't expect overnight results with anything with my body, right? I don't go to the gym and do one rep and you're like, yeah, my biceps are popping. You expect to start simple, but you expect to be consistent. You expect to have a sense of discipline. And then you also visually are able to see after a period of time, like, wow, I couldn't even do a push-up. Now look at me, I'm doing 20 push-ups in one go. That's what I want to bring as a lifestyle for the mind, that I show up every day, maybe for a minute, just to check in with myself. How was the day? Or what am I grateful for today? Or can I get 1 minute of silence with just myself? Like, put it as a ritual, as a lifestyle, put it in your calendar. Start simple. And then that repetition, that consistency, discipline, you start elevating and unpacking versions of yourself that are inside you, but you haven't met them yet. So that to me is mental fitness, that choosing to show up for you in a very like voracious and aggressive way.
And you have it everywhere in your house, on your business card. Choose you.
Start choosing you, exactly.
Because why do we go in burnout? We want to create more, we crave more, we want to do more for others, we want to be outside.
Yes.
And we maybe, in different ways, abandon ourselves.
Absolutely.
How is mental fitness? I mean, I know because we are very close friends. I'm a huge fan of her.
Me too.
Who she is as a human and the profession that you are and what you're advocating for. You're advocating for mental health and you're giving people a path. For those who are more curious to learn about your amazing brand, Inside Out, how would you define the difference between mental fitness and healing?
Yes. So I would look at healing as one of the modalities you choose under mental fitness.
Got it.
So anything that you can choose for yourself to work on your understanding you, on your mind, anything that falls under the category is, for me, mental fitness. So healing would be one of those modalities. So if I'm just beginning to look within, I probably won't choose healing because I need to walk that path a little further to go there. But as you evolve and tap into bigger, better versions of you, for me, healing is one of those mental fitness routines that I bring in.
As you are a queen of data, I have a curiosity. I never asked you this question.
Yeah.
On your platform, generally women are a bit more prone to go into learning, and men too.
Yes.
But on your platform, what's the ratio? Are men starting to do more meditation, to journal, to check in with themselves?
So I have a very interesting thing to reveal that, initially building this product, the first product for us at Inside and Out, we're calling it Making the Invisible Visible. I wanted to speak to a past version of Suchi, of me. So I was like, let's build it for the high achieving woman, though I do want to say if you're a woman, you're high achieving, period. But I did want to...
You're making other humans inside your body. You're high achieving.
Period. Story over, right? Proved right there. But in the process, I was like, that's how I want to begin. I want to begin it for a past version of me and to meet women like me wherever they are today. But eventually, the intention is I do believe every single person has, a way to flex your mind, and it should be gender agnostic. So I would like to be able to create it for men and then for everyone at large. But our audiences in the community that we're building on Instagram, we have about 45 to 55% balance, which blows my mind because a lot of the language at times is geared towards women. A lot of the direct communication is geared towards women, but still we have a really good balance of men listening in as well.
Speaking of men, you, like many of the executive women I'm coaching, have been for a big number of years in a male-dominated environment.
Yes.
I want to learn, were there moments where that muted you, you shrank, and how did you unmute it yourself?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I think your default wiring is to sometimes mute yourself because you've been told 100 times, right? That don't be too loud, don't be too pushy, don't be too aggressive, try to adjust, try to be softer, try to be kind. Those lines are playing in your mind just default. They're just there by itself. But over the years, I think ever since I started to pay more attention to how I'm speaking to myself, why I'm trying to keep myself small, why am I not really going out and expressing what I want to do, I've unmuted myself by really separating that voice and me. And I have a dialogue with that voice like it's another person. I have a name and a character for that person, and I chat in a way to say, hey, I hear you, but I decide. not you. And so that allowed me to slowly and steadily be more authentic. Like, give me permission to be who I am, to be showing up in rooms, even if it's filled with men, to be able to say, that's what I'm thinking, that's what I want to do, and that's what I would like your support in order to do what I want to do. And I think this really helped.
So the mindset shift, because you're full of techniques and mindset shifts, were separating the,
Yes.
so having the awareness of that voice, then practicing and starting to have a dialogue with it.
Yes.
So that you stay centered in your power and separate yourself from that voice, as you said. And after a while, how did you manage to bring yourself with more courage and ask what you need?
Once you start giving yourself permission, right, you start realizing that the courage is just a byproduct, right? Because you're like, I feel this. So even if it's going to get shot down, at least I said what I want to say.
It's my favorite saying. I think I've coached more than 4,000 people in the last 7 years. It's my favorite saying that, yes, I can teach you a lot of things about your mind and how to think and how to express, but it's you who have to give yourself permission. And it's always you.
Absolutely.
You at home, you have all the tools. We can guide you a bit.
Yeah.
You go on her platform inside and out. You do exercise. You stay accountable. But you decide to do the work. You decide to give yourself permission to be more, to take more space.
Yeah. You said it.
Got it. What would you say today, to that version of yourself when you were surrounded by men and you were like, I'm the youngest, I'm the only woman, I'm in Qatar, you worked in Doha for a number of years. What would you say to her?
I would say that, I think the thing that I constantly go back and I think is that stop being so hard on your intuition.
On your intuition?
On my intuition, I think I've always had that, immediate feeling of what I want to do or what I want to say or what I'm feeling. But I have never respected that. I have dumbed it down so much to follow. All of us. Yeah.
All of us. Because the way I see it is the strong conditioning the mind.
Absolutely.
Suppressing.
Exactly.
And crushing that little voice that says, I want to go there. I want to do this. No, wait, not now.
You said it, and you gave it feeling precisely that's how the dialogue is inside.
How did you cultivate your intuition?
So, I feel the self-awareness, just starting to pay attention to why am I feeling this way? Why am I angry right now? Why has this person triggered me? What about this moment is making me feel alive? Why am I sitting on this couch with Andrea and feeling like I'm just me? Paying attention, because you don't have the same reactions in all the circumstances that might be exactly the same, but you don't have the same reaction. So that curiosity, right? Building that curiosity with a lot of passion and consistency, there reaches a place where you start seeing a pattern on how every time you're having an instant reaction, it says more than my logical brain.
So we discover and cultivate our intuition.
Absolutely. And that takes me back to mental fitness, because I discover, but if I'm not cultivating with this discipline and consistency, I can't give this it's not a new pathway in my head. It's not a new way of being.
I'm very passionate about this particular topic.
Yes.
There have been so many times in my life where I've made terrible mistakes on who to partner with in personal life, in business, what to purchase, based on how persuasive the speech, the messaging was.
Yes.
Fast forward 2-3 months, that moment, my intuition said, but I told you not to. And so me too, and I'm sure everybody at home, we realized that if I give my attention to the small nuggets, and if I cultivate it, if I constantly build on it, that's how I'm able to let the main and the only GPS guide me through this, what we call life.
Yes.
So mental fitness in this context means know when to quiet your mind and listen to your body and to what you've cultivated as instruments of tapping into, I feel good with Suchitra, I feel good with John. So it's also the body that you have to learn to listen to, not only the mind.
No, and I think, I come from the world of data and analytics, and I've realized that if you look at a complicated algorithm to process and spit out and say, hey, in this scenario, taking all these parameters into consideration, this is what you should do. I think the logical brain can only process what it sees. Okay, this is lucrative, this situation is good, this person seems nice, whatever. But I think intuition is like that very complex algorithm. It is taking into factor your personality, your traumas, your triggers, your limiting beliefs, and then throwing you out a feeling. So what we think is very intuition, like who listens to that, or who listens to a feeling? It's actually computing your logical parameters and taking into factor a lot about you.
Say it again and slower because it's very important.
So take this for instance, let's say that I have a job offer and the offer is fantastic salary on paper, and it looks like I'm going to really enjoy that, and I have this interview and somehow I'm speaking to the person or the management that I'm going to be working with. They represent the DNA of that company, and when I leave I feel like I don't think I'm going to be happy there. But everything on paper, which is my salary, the job description, the people, the interview, everything went well, but there's something that says to you, right? That feeling or that intuition, I believe, took those 5-6 parameters, but it also added to that your unique personality. That probably it sensed that I think you're going to be micromanaged and you won't really get to voice yourself. Or it sensed that I think they're going to basically like not allow you flexibility in terms of blah, blah. Or it sensed that, it doesn't look like it's a company that's diverse and inclusive. Like there's something else that it understands about you that's very unique to you. That is what is intuition. It's actually a combination of logical parameters and taking your unique DNA and saying, I don't think that's great. Or this person, brings out the best in me, or that situation may not fit me. That's how I see it.
How is your platform helping people? How exactly? If I'm already exploring your new products,
yes.
And I look forward for the world to receive soon your new journal.
Yes.
So whoever subscribes to the platform, how are they going to work out, cultivate, reveal, connect with their intuition? How is that helping?
So, if you think about it, like anyways, we always hear, right, that our gut is our second brain, and pretty much it's speaking to you with the same capacity that your brain can, maybe even more powerful sometimes. I can't tap into it and respect it and listen to it and even sometimes decode, like analyze it, that why am I feeling this way? Why is this? Without awareness. I have to first come into the awareness of, okay, why am I feeling like this?
Okay.
Why am I saying this?
So by documenting, accounting, auditing, all of you will be able to have mental clarity, which you're so good at creating for so many people.
Yes.
As a mentor, as a coach, and now as the founder of this brand. Got it. So it's the audit and editing that clears out all the
And I can't do
noise.
The audit and editing without choosing to do that every day, right? I have to sit down and say on a daily basis, what was the high point of today? What was the low point? Why did I experience a low point with that person or that situation or that moment in my day? And you're kind of looking at it, stock taking, and then think about it over time, consistency compounded. I will start seeing patterns. I will see themes. I will see that I have a repeating behavior in certain areas. Now, my intuition is getting stronger and stronger because I already know how to a little bit preempt my behaviors.
And as you help people to strengthen their voices, something that we do naturally, how do you help people with those inner negative thoughts, with the inner saboteur?
So first, like I was saying before as well, right? I think the first thing is to recognize that, I am speaking to myself in a way that's, bringing me down. And the best news, if that's going to relax everyone, is there's not a single person on this planet who doesn't have negative chatter. Like there's just nobody. Science and studies and numerable research has proven that.
We have 60, 90,000 thoughts?
We have about 60 to 80,000 thoughts on a daily basis. And 85% of them are repeating. And 90% of those are negative. So it's quite alarming to think that, we kind of repeat and also speak in the same negative voice to ourselves over and over again. But because it's so natural to us and it's autopilot, you're not even stopping to check in and say, oh, why am I talking to myself like that? So I think noticing that, oh, this is a dialogue going on in my head is the very first step. And that is honestly, I think, a big breakthrough. But once you notice it, then I think it's a practice. It's really a lifestyle. Think like you're weeding out a garden or you're cleaning the inventory, I don't know, in your fridge or in your warehouse. Just you're really auditing and editing, like you said. So now I have to pay attention on the daily. Like if you were writing every day, for example, you get to start seeing that, wow, I'm stuck somewhere, or every time I want to try something new, I have a way
But
of
many
not.
people say, I don't have time to journal.
Yes. So you don't have to look at it as an activity I have to do outside of me that needs time. You look at it as, I want to get to know myself. I want to commit to me, because along with everything else that I've committed to in life, I am the most important piece that I need to commit to. So if you can't flip that narrative, journaling will always be a pain. It will always be a waste of time. It will always be outside of my busy schedule, right? But if you realize that none of these goals and none of the pursuits that you have meaning, they won't have meaning if I don't have that respect and commitment to myself. Automatically, when you flip the narrative, you're like, 5 minutes to journal? Hell yeah.
About 85% of the world population is just a big number.
Yeah.
through different type of research. So more than 80% of the world population is afraid to be self-expressed, to speak in public. They have lots of limiting beliefs. How would you encourage people that mental fitness would help them also with overcoming their fear of being self-expressed and speak in public?
I think, the part I love about mental fitness is that you really are starting to own and celebrate who you are. Like who you are in your uniqueness, in everything that makes you you. If you just said 85% of the world, but think about it, Andrea. We have 1 billion people today. Not a single DNA is replicated. We have 8.1 unique DNA strains.
It's fascinating.
So to not be that curious and obsessed about wanting to understand you is on you, is on each one of us. Now, when I do understand myself through mental fitness, which is really trying to practice self-awareness with a discipline, at a certain point or a place that I will reach, I only think I'm going to allow myself full authentic expression, because the more I get to know me, the more I'm giving myself permission.
But wasn't that hard at the beginning?
Oh, of course it's hard, because you're unlearning, decades of hardcore wiring, plus they say you carry your beliefs of the past 6 generations or whatever. You're unlearning like insane amounts. But I think when you get into that space of wanting to discover yourself, you're slowly but surely falling in love with you as well, along with all the other things that you are committed to in life.
I didn't ask you this during our many coffee dates, but when and how did you become a good public speaker?
It's really interesting. I think I've been one always.
What helped you mold yourself into a good public speaker?
I feel like, I'm really, to be honest, I'm answering this question by just in the moment thinking back to the few things that I've done.
I know that you're a global citizen. You've been just everywhere. So it's maybe the exposure to the world, the large world, maybe that impacted you, enlarged you in a way?
It definitely would have been a big contributing factor for sure. But what I've also understood over time is that I think people have strong suits of expressing themselves. And one of mine is to be articulate verbally and physically. Like I've realized it is one of my stronger ways to say what I want to say. Like some people write, some people probably don't. They're very quiet in their confidence, right?
They have different ways of expression.
Different ways. And I think knowing what your style is and then tapping into that is a very important part of it. And I would do very little things, it's not, I don't know where I figured those things from, but like, for example, before I would go into like a debates when I was in school, and I know that I'm gonna like kill it or crush it. Like I'm very passionate about the topic. I would prepare with a lot of like,
Okay, so that helped. Schooling, conditioning, good
also
conditioning
like body language. Like before I go into like speaking, I always would do things like jumping like on a trampoline, or I would sit like with my shoulders out.
Stretch.
I'd raise my
Have
arms.
body awareness.
Yeah,
Because 55% of communication is body awareness,
Yes.
body language. So you're very good at speaking in public and with debates in school, but how are you with confrontations? Because most people have difficulty in confrontation, family, colleagues, love.
Yes. I mean, I have like the not so nice side of the story of myself, and I also have how mental fitness has helped me.
The light and the dark.
The light and the dark. And I have to tell you, the dark is that's being human, So I think because I'm comfortable expressing, I also think the downside of that is sometimes when it's conflict, I'm not afraid. I would rather resolve or bring something up and speak something that feels uncomfortable, because that's my form of expression. But what I have realized is confrontation can get heated and aggressive and non-productive if you are bringing something up where the other person's form of communication is not to confront or to not be.
I want a story.
Yeah, so like for instance, I mean, I don't even know if I'm going to give you a single story, or I can just say in general that, like, say for instance, important people in my life, somehow I've had like a more often experience where these people that are close to me don't like confrontation. They don't want to discuss something, but you're also somehow cultivated to cope by just ignoring, and we speak about it later. That doesn't exist in my brain. Like, I need to speak about it now. So I didn't have the maturity or awareness that, Suchi, we will speak about it later. So for now, like, I don't know, go for a run, push it aside.
Pause.
Whatever you're saying, pause. Whatever you're going to say now is going to be heated and not necessarily productive. I didn't have that maturity. So when I bring it up right here, right now, the expression is one side of me, but the confrontational expression would always be anger. It would always be loud. It would always be, you're not understanding me, you haven't heard what I'm saying, and things like that, which is kind of not allowing for a productive conversation. And more so, if the other person doesn't enjoy confrontation, this becomes a bit of a shouting match and a session where your anger is the forefront of everything. But I think now, knowing that expressing is a strength of mine and working on my mental fitness, on understanding why this situation is making me feel this way, or why am I feeling angry right now, and not reacting right away, taking that pause has completely switched how I still very much show up at confrontational situations, but I show up when I'm calm, when I am able to process what has happened, and I'm comfortable to still discuss it because I do enjoy that. I want to solve it.
I love that you've had that journey. What I appreciate in the difficulty and uncomfort of a confrontation is that it always ends up deepening the relation.
Yes.
Because once two humans went down there and they had that intimate, uncomfortable conversation and they came back, their bond is stronger.
Yeah.
So for me, that's how I motivate myself to go into it. Although I'm still terrified, scared. In any scenario, I'm like, oh boy, here it comes. Hold on, seat belts, breathe.
Yeah.
It does. As much as I am so extroverted and flamboyant on stages, when it comes to family or loved one, I'm like, okay, so I tend to do a bit into the mute, but then I'm remembering myself I have a podcast called UnMute. So I have to leave. I want to leave what I preach, and I am. So, yeah, we open the can of worms and we have the conversation, and then hopefully the relationship remains.
No, because one really great thing that I learned through, I think, not just getting to know myself, but also studying a lot about like coaching and neuroscience and stuff, is that you realize that confrontation is also about understanding two people's attachment styles. That, let's say, I like to confront a situation because I need to solve something now because let's say I'm more anxiety driven, and that other person doesn't want to confront
Because they want space
and they are someone who's more comfortable not discussing it because they have their own ways of panicking that if I'm going to speak what I'm feeling in my mind, maybe the outcome will be unpleasant. And if you start understanding your attachment, are you an avoidant? Am I an anxious attached? And then can we both work on being secure? I find confrontation will be done healthily. That's when you deepen the connection, right? But if I don't understand your attachment style, I don't understand mine, I feel even though I gave myself permission from a very young age to confront, it was very unproductive when the person on the other side is an avoidant. If they want
because then you have a wall. Then you have a wall
war
in front of you. A war and a wall.
And a wall, exactly. And so in those circumstances, you feel that neither is your confrontational comfort is a useful skill to have. And at the end of the day, you're not deepening the relationship. You've landed up having more and more walls, and you're sitting next to the person, but you're basically, I don't know, in Timbuktu and in Saudi Arabia, like really far, if you know what I meant.
I know that you are a huge fan of journaling, hence you're launching your journal, Inside and Out. Affirmations, visualizations, journaling increase our ability to respond positively and well by 33%, especially in high-stakes situations. Let's talk about rewiring and how available is to all of us to rewire and how that happens on your platform, Inside and Out.
So, the journal, like I call it like a guided companion and a journal because the first half is really to help you look at your mental schema and separate you from the voices, the inner negative chatter, for example. And what I find is interesting in this process of how you're paying attention to how you're speaking to yourself, and then you start putting it into action. Like I'm actually journaling what I have started to understand. I find that for the brain to take on a new way of being, a new habit, a new neuroscience pathway, or a new GPS route, I have to be in action. So first I'm being by gaining the knowledge by reading, which is it's plenty now, right? You see it on social media, you see it everywhere, all of the good buzzwords, they're everywhere. But if I don't apply, I'm not making any change. Now I just have a bunch of buzzwords and I'm going to throw those buzzwords onto people without looking at myself. So the journaling part for me, what is really science-backed and exciting is you are actually, every time you journal, you are bringing more and more clarity to the emotional processing in your brain, right? You carry all this big mushmash. And now you're like, every time you write, the brain is starting to send a signal to your nervous system that, hey, we are relaxed because this emotion that was really like a big deal to process seems a lot more digestible. It seems a lot more easier. And then I start seeing themes to those, emotions that I'm processing. So there's more clarity.
Patterns,
there's
themes.
more lightness. So how you say like your vagus nerve or your vagal tone starts to get bigger and bigger, they say, which means that now you're associating with more positive moods, with more positive solutioning, because you're processing your emotions in a consistent way to give that clarity, like you're removing the big mess in there. That's why I find that there's one thing to learn, there's one thing to keep studying, one thing to keep educating ourselves. The real magic is in practice, when I'm applying it and I'm starting to unwire what I have been doing on repeats.
For me, the unwiring, I loved everything you said. For me, the unwiring feels like you have now the tools, the knowing to code yourself how you want.
Exactly.
I believe Jordan Peterson explained that we have about 33% opportunity chance to influence how we are genetically made.
Yeah.
So through his personality test, it shows that we have around 33%, if I remember correctly, opportunity to code ourselves.
Yeah.
To me, that's a huge number.
I know.
In order to make myself be how I want to be. Like I'm the creator of myself. I'm the author of my book and so on. So take us through the process of how long it takes to rewire, to create change, if people were to use your journal or to do any course that you have on Inside and Out.
So, science, I think I was reading this article a couple of years ago that I think the scientists, researchers, neuroscientists say that it takes you about 21 days of consistently practicing something to start seeing change. But the truth is, nobody who's onboarding something new is consistently doing that for 21 days. So to be practicing something new to yourself 21 days straight, I think you need to be like really, really convinced that I'm onboarding this new behavior and I'm going to never, like, not have a single day that I would fall off, which is, not humanish. I mean, we all fall off when we're beginning something new. So then the long term of consistency with a few drop-offs here and there is it takes 90 days to build a new GPS route. And so the average in there, they say if you are following a new behavioral pattern, you're rewiring something that didn't serve you with what would serve you. 66 days is what it takes to really allow for the new GPS route to form. So you should definitely give that much of time frame to say, hey, within 66 days, I will be seeing a newer version of me for sure. But with practices like, anything to do with mental fitness for you to keep evolving, I feel like our journey to evolve is till the day we die. So for me, once we tap into, say, Suchi version 2.0, then there's 3.0 to look for, 4.0, 5.0. So I feel these practices, every time you repeat them, you're going to unpack something you didn't know existed in you, because life is constantly ebbing and flowing, and you're going to constantly be tapping into experiences that will make you find bigger, deeper, hidden treasures within you that you have to release or unleash. So that's how I see it. I see that you can use the tool and you can use the tool forever. It's just the point is the person using it is not the same Andrea anymore. It's Andrea 2.0 using it, 3.0 using it. That's how I see it.
I have a two questions in one that has just came to me based on what you were just saying. I wonder, what's your opinion on why most of us, most people, go into tools, techniques, mental fitness, healing, repairing something, or growing only when we are in pain, when we hit burnout or a divorce or we get fired.
Yeah.
Why we don't anticipate?
Yeah.
And go into a mental fitness application like yours when we are good.
Yeah.
So the first question is, why do we go there only when it's hard? Why don't we anticipate?
I have like a really, because I've thought about it so many times, that I feel like a lot of people's purpose stem from their pain, right? From a painful chapter in your life. But I think it's quite simple. I feel like I wouldn't necessarily have a deep answer to why culture and society was programmed this way, but we are cultivated from a very young age to look outside of us, not within us. And I do want to answer this a little deeply, So for example, because I'm always asked to think, how are my parents feeling? How are my, siblings feeling? Or how are my elders feeling? Or, how did I make that person feel? But I've never been taught to ask, how are you feeling? And that's also somehow associated in a way that you're selfish, you're, thinking too much about yourself, you're not important right now, and top that with being woman, so you got to put yourself even more at the bottom end of that list, right? So I'm recognizing that until you completely crash and burn in whatever your pain is, where you are sort of literally having an internal breakdown and saying, I got to rise from here, I'm basically saying it's game over or no way, like I'm starting now, like this is when my game really begins.
Or you're at the bottom, there is no more down than this
to go. So at that place is when I think you wake up and see yourself genuinely for the first time. But to answer the same question in an interesting way, so me growing up, for example, one of the things that my mom would do since I was, I don't know, probably maybe earlier, but I remember from the age of 5, I was asked to pray every day, just reciting prayers. And I noticed that, when I went through very tough moments and I didn't know what are the coping tools out there, how to practice them for myself, the only thing I would go to was prayer. And that's when I understand, that if you inculcated coping tools in a child very early on from the age of 5 or 6, when their brain begins to start absorbing, you actually give them tools to cope when difficult things happen to you.
High stake situation, stress.
So you don't have to really kick in only when pain comes in, but that's because you've cultivated those tools from a very young age. What the child will grow up to search for is their purpose. It will grow up to find meaning.
Does that mean that you're taking mental fitness to schools?
I mean, I would love to, because I do think that it's for me, I feel if you think about parenting, for example, every single person is figuring out life. Every single person is coming at it for the first time.
Has a level of consciousness, has a level of tools.
And how many parents are consciously parenting where they've gone into like coaching themselves, working with someone like you, or going into healing, spending time doing things that you try to understand yourself. You don't even have the luxury or the time to do those things sometimes.
You're busy being a parent, being a human, being a wife or a husband,
exactly,
being a good employee or a
absolutely
founder.
And so I'm bringing up another human being with all that baggage on them, right? So I feel the biggest gift you can give your children to walk into the world and say, I got this, is give them a mental fitness backpack, and you start that early. So when they are posed in front of difficult circumstances or things that are trying them, they have their tools. And I think that's what a parent can do. You really can't sort everything out for your child, because you are also figuring it out. You're also winging it at life like everybody else.
I want to talk about failure and how does your application help people with bouncing back and cultivating resilience?
So, I mean, for me, again, it's inner chatter, right? How you're speaking to yourself.
The feedback that you are creating from the failure, be it a relationship, be it an investment, a business.
And, I also look at it like how I flipped my perspective. For example, I was brought up in a house and in a culture where failure was not an option. Like, for example, growing up and then also being a girl child in the community that I am from, I think being successful or genuinely being different meant you're either an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, or my dad introduced I could also be a chartered accountant if I wanted. But anything other than that is like I'm a loser. Basically, I failed at life. And then to top that, I'm also a girl. So like, brilliant, you're just not good for anything. So you already have a preset bunch of like, okay, I got to go through one of these 4 trajectories and and I have to be the best at it. So your brain protects you from failing at every single point, because it's like, I don't have that option, because if I'm going to screw up one time, game over. But when I started to work on myself, I looked at failure as like, that means I tried. That means I gave myself the opportunity to say, oh, you feel like doing that, go for it. You feel like attempting this, try it. And when I started to look at it as like it's a chance that I gave me, and I have one shot at life, and I gave myself those opportunities. And every time you're failing at something, you're no more the same. You actually learned something from that experience for sure. Your knowledge base has expanded. Your experience has expanded. Now I look at it as like, wow, it's kind of great to say that I tried. And it's kind of great to see that now when I go back at it again, I'm coming from experience. I'm not coming from, someone who never did this before. Even if I failed at something and we're talking about that same topic, I will have intel to share with you that I would never have before when I didn't try. So that, I feel, is what happens when you pay attention to your chatter, right? Like, wow, I really want to open this restaurant, but I'm so afraid. I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to start. That person said restaurant businesses are hard. I don't have the energy. You speak to yourself this way. You catch it. You start paying attention. And then you start recognizing that, you know what? Everybody begins from nothing. Everyone has a chapter 1, and you start to rewire that dialogue, and you allow yourself to say, go try.
But not everyone has kindness and patience that you exhibit so much. How does one cultivate the patience and the love? Because we beat ourselves.
But I think that's why
we're very harsh on ourselves.
That's why I wrote this book, because I was that person. I was that person who beat myself really hard, being very harsh. I mean, burnout for me, is not stemming from overworking. Yes, it could be one of the reasons, but I think it's your brain overworking. When you're overthinking, trying to be a perfectionist, you're a type A, you've got all these voices. Your brain is overworking. And then at some point, 10 years, 15 years down the line, it's like, I'm out of service. Like I ain't doing anything.
I want to quickly interject one incredible Indian yoga teacher.
Yes.
Because India gifted us yoga. Thank you, India, for all your infinite gifts, including Suchitra and the incredible guys who are helping us record UnMute podcast. Thank you, guys. So this Indian master said the mind, the mind is infinite. It can go in the future. It can create non-stop. Hello, the body is finite. The body has rules and rhythms and is finite. So if you don't respect the fact that one is infinite and one is finite, burnout, depression, exhaustion, shorter span life.
Exactly.
So go figure.
Exactly. And so that's why I feel paying attention to how you're speaking to yourself, consistently tracking that, watching it, taking data to interpret, tell you stories like, wow, I've been writing that stuff for 30 days and it's the same thing. Like, I need to do something about this, is where the magic happens. And that's when self-love is being kicked in, compassion is coming in.
Has your self-love increased post your burnout and post the transformation?
Insanely.
Choose you.
Yeah, I genuinely think anything that probably meant self-love to me before was superficial. I don't think I really understood loving yourself. You know, it's like you're having I know the word affair has a negative connotation, but it's like having a love affair with yourself till the end of time, right?
You're seducing yourself.
It's just it's quite incredible that we want to find the one. We're always looking for that ultimate person, but you don't find that in your home. You don't find that home in yourself. So how do you even expect to offer that version of you to someone else? Because you haven't found it yourself. So,
I am guilty of that. I did go in the past, a long time ago, into relationships hoping to get.
Yeah.
Like I was having an empty tank. I didn't know how to fill it, and I was going from a place of scarcity to get attention, to get love, to get time, and then it was failing, and then I have to be so full, so in overflow that when I go into a relationship with the opposite sex, I'm like, oh, but I'm already self-sufficient. I'm already happy, and I want us to have fun, to have a conversation, to go explore the world with my resources, in my emotional resources, intellectual resources, financial, and yours.
Yeah.
I'm like,
And you know what I find in that is that you don't have to wait for that ultimate moment to be full, to be like, yes, I'm completely whole. When you're on this journey and you've clicked, like you've switched on and you're becoming aware of yourself, you're paying attention to how, am I finding someone to fill a void, or am I finding someone to expand my universe?
Really, if more people will ask themselves this critical question and will be radically honest to themselves, I think the divorce rate
would be significant,
and the heartache will lower. So let's say it one more time. Ask yourself sincerely if you are single and wanting to date, like me, or if you are going into a relationship, or if you are already in a relationship, are you doing that from a place of void to feel, to take, or you have already done the process of mental fitness, meditations, self-awareness, so you are so full of light, of resources, of knowledge, and you want to share it with people on podcasts, with people in conversations. Just fill yourself up. And if you ask yourself, and if you get an answer, then mobilize yourself wherever you have to.
And you know, I feel that if you get an answer that I want to meet somebody to fill the void, to fix me, to heal me, go for it. Just own the answer. You know, own that that's the context in which you're finding somebody.
Actually, don't judge yourself.
Don't judge. Own it. And then you know that, okay, the outcome would also be proportionate to my intention, right? I went in with that intention. The outcome would match that. And also, there is no end to discovering yourself. So don't think that I have to be fully like finding myself and fully reaching a place of overflow. If you're on the journey, you will attract someone who is on the journey. So together you will be bigger and better. But to be switched on and to do that, to choose you with a choice every day, that I think is the most important part. It's not that I'm fully healed and I don't think that's the goal to find somebody, but you're on that journey. And so you attract someone, you're tuning into somebody who's listening to the same radio station. So as long as we're on the same frequency, it's all good. We'll figure this out.
Leaving the love arena, we are moving into the entrepreneurial one, where Suchitra, founder of the brand Inside and Out, and Andrea Zoya, founder of AZ Consultancy and the UnMute podcast, are going to speak about entrepreneurship and stress levels. So I'm reading from my research because I have 10 pages of questions for this incredible woman. It says here on page 6,
Yes.
it says here entrepreneurs are twice more likely to experience stress, anxiety, and depression compared to employees. Entrepreneurs often they move between highs and lows, while employees deal with stability but less autonomy.
Yes.
How does mental fitness support both mindsets, entrepreneurs and employees?
I mean, I think self-awareness on a human level is game-changing. I say self-awareness is an attainable superpower. That's how I frame it. So I think it's universally applicable to every human being, right? So it's going to help you because you're going to understand yourself better. So whether you're in corporate or you're an entrepreneur, you're always going to serve yourself with much, much better versions of you.
And the world.
And the world, which is the biggest gift you can give yourself in this, I don't know, living in this 3D world. But difference between entrepreneurship and corporate life, what I would say, I've been in both worlds now, and I find that being an entrepreneur for me has been the biggest personal growth machine, because I find that being completely on your own, sort of figuring out so many aspects that corporate life takes care of, like say for instance, I don't know, legalities of what you're doing, managing your finances on your own. Let's say you want to get something like IP'd or trademarked, you've got to go and figure out how that happens, of picking the right people for the team, making sure there's, money flowing in and out to manage all of that, the consequences flow of things like say falling apart, or you're actually in a space where you're like, I don't really know how to get a book published. Like you don't actually know what to do that, so you can't
There's
really
so much
call.
Unknown. There is so much unknown,
and there's so many different people servicing those roles in corporate. So you're just like, I'm just going to pick up and call so and so department and get this sorted, right? But here you're calling yourself. You're like, hello, and then you tap into your network and your friends and all of that. So I find, in order to take action when you're an entrepreneur, there's a lot more demons in your head that you've never heard. And they're coming into play, and you need to address them, or you need to be able to sort of say, listen, I don't want to hear you right now. I have to do what I have to do. So I do find that entrepreneurship for me has been a really, really big personal growth machine. I definitely see that. But if you say, how does mental fitness help somebody in corporate versus entrepreneurship? I think flexing your mind, giving yourself 5 minutes of solitude to build self-awareness universally is going to make every single person attain that rare sweet spot where success also meets happy.
I want to team up next to these tools for entrepreneurs, also confidence to speak and express, tell the story of their brand, their business. And for that, what I do is I help people to build their confidence on a superficial level in the first few sessions on standing, body language, and breathing to support themselves. So I see how correct posture and correct breathing can immediately give them a boost of confidence that they can project.
Yeah.
How do you help them through mental fitness to build more confidence?
In the book, I have this chapter which is called Dose of the Dose.
Yeah, I love it.
And so it's just a dose of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And how I see it is that if you are every single day doing a little thing that allows you to release these hormones in your hippocampus, where you're actually building that part of your brain that takes care of short-term memory becoming long-term memory and regulating your nervous system, you are actually tapping into, say, functionally reverse aging, being able to perform better in more regulated states of stress. So this is necessary for an entrepreneur. This is really important for someone who is building something in a state that's holding two contradictory emotions. You're always maybe nervous and overwhelmed, but you're also insanely wired because you're doing something that you love.
And creative and passionate and driven because you're on a mission. How do you see the brain? As in, you're like, I love that you, comparing to many people I'm in conversations with, and these are lots of people, I really observed that you've created a language of your own, like Suchitra's language. You remember how I told you, so she's inspired me to create an entire program on emotional currency based on our conversation when you said emotional bank.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard that expression and like, my neurons were like, happy, and I went and I created like a 20, 30 pages modules, exercises on emotional currency that my clients, executive clients now are benefiting. So
Wow.
thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you've gifted me the podcast and the program.
Oh my God.
And many other things you're still going to gift me, but you don't know
You
about.
just gave me a dose of the dose.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, do you know that you can't unheard a compliment?
Absolutely.
Because like you're so beautiful, thank you. You hear that, the brain creates oxytocin.
Yes.
You feel good, so you can't like not. Yeah, I just
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
How do you see the brain? Because you're so visual. So how do you see the brain, its parts, the nervous system, the vagus? What is your visual representation of the brain?
It's so strange because my instant thought is it's like my brain feels like as great as my heart. Like it feels like it's the central part of everything working and functioning and getting the right signals and doing what is needed to be done for me to wake up and walk around every single day, right? So I feel it's like my heartbeat in an interesting way because every part of the circuitry is connected here. I know your heart needs to beat every single second for it to do what it needs for you to be alive, but I really do look at the brain as a big giant heart because it just feels like it's a place where everything that needs to function well for me to be doing what I want to do and to function on a basic to a deeper level is somehow stemming from here. And if I don't give it that attention and obsession and love, then
everything is going to suffer, including the heart.
Sometimes your body is functioning great, but your brain is like not really showing up, right? Even look at, conditions that we suffer with when we're getting a little older, but we haven't flexed the brain, like dementia or like.
And in 2025, we have more depression rates than ever before.
Exactly.
So
I do see it as the heart. It's just I feel like it's this big giant
of
heart
course,
that
the
you
creator,
need to hug and
of course,
hold
the
it.
creator of a brand called Inside Out and of a movement will say that about the mind. It's a heart. Before we wrap up, give us 2-3 more easy tools to increase awareness, to alchemize difficult emotions which are coming to us day in and day out.
I think the first part of your question, to increase awareness, I would say start really simple. The thing that you would want to do is have a why. Like, why do I want to commit to myself? Why? And if you have your own why, then do something really simple. Maybe every day before you go to bed or you start your day, you say, how do I want today to be? Or you end it with, what was my high and low today? Just very simple, but first understand, why do you want to commit yourself? If you don't have that why, no one can convince you on how to walk the journey of self-awareness. Just start. And the second part that you said, like if you're processing like a lot of emotional overwhelm or it's just a lot going on in your head, I do like 3-4 very basic things that I can do anywhere, anytime, And so, for example, moving your body is a really, really big thing for me. And it's not just me, it's science-backed. There's just incredible research work that talks about what it does to your brain, how it activates your hippocampus, why it's great for you even through the process of aging. Your mental age remains very different from your body age and things like that. So I take something as simple as walking. I'll do some meetings walking. I would land up walking my dog 5 times.
We had plenty of those.
We had plenty of those because I find that it completely calms down your nervous system from before you started the walk to after. And then once you're calming your nervous system, your mind is now alert, but it's calm. Prior to that, you're alert, but you're like bogged down with all of these emotions, and now you're calm. Another very, very simple thing is breath work, right? You're just sitting in the corner of your office, wherever, take 4 inhales, 6 exhales. And again, this calms down your vagus nerve. So automatically your parasympathetic nervous system is relaxing and you're able to solve from a more relaxed state. Another really fun one I do is if I'm in a cab, I'm going somewhere, I just look for 5 things that I can see around me, like Andrea, this light, that digital device, this camera. I see 4 things that I can hear. I look for 4 things I can hear, like what am I hearing? 3 things that I can touch, 2 things that I can smell, and 1 thing that I can taste. So the minute you do this,
Become present.
you come back to
You
the
become
now. So that
present, yeah.
entire emotional overwhelm is disconnected. And you can do this anywhere. No one even needs to know you're doing it. You can do it umpteen number of times in the day. That's why I call it mental fitness. And no one has to know. And I think these techniques are really easy to like pick on and execute all through the day whenever you're feeling that overwhelmed to disrupt it.
It's pretty clear that having this larger discussion
Yes.
on mental fitness and on the mind, how we can cultivate our intuition and take
Yes.
care of our mind and intuition will naturally impact how we are being and how we are communicating, be if it's public speaking, be if it's a leadership role or at home. So your communication and the way you speak with confidence will be highly impacted if you go back to the source, which is the mind,
Yes.
the hormones,
Yes.
and how you have all these tools to really improve yourself by starting with self-awareness.
And starting to choose you.
And by starting to choose you, because then all
The
the magic
magic
unfolds. And
Yes.
speaking of unfolding and unmuting,
Yes.
I have prepared something special, a tribute to say thank you for your precious time and for
Something more.
for something more
More than all of this amazingness that we just created.
And it's it encompasses the fact that you are an engineer, you've been in oil and gas, and now you are a mind architect, and you are right what you are doing for us with mental fitness. So I said she walks between worlds, still and soul.
Wow.
An engineer of minds making hearts whole. From circuits and code to wisdom untold, she teaches the brave how to break the mold. Inside and out, the journey begins, where silence fades and strength begins. She turns doubt into fire, fear into flight, unmuting the voice, reclaiming the light. Not just success, but the power to feel. Not just ambition, but learning to heal.
Oh.
Suchitra reminds us our minds can be free, for the loudest change starts silently. Thank you for being on UnMute.
Oh my God, thank you so much. This was incredible.
And thank you for being the godmother of UnMute.
Such an honor, and will always be.
And I wish that thousands of people visit Inside and Out and will fall in love with the techniques and with all the love and passion that you've been pouring in for years now in the amazing platform that you own and that you have.
Love it. I mean, transforming 1 billion lives together. You don't really do any of this by yourself, you know? So I think it's a ripple effect. When we look within, our environments start to change, the people around us change. And so the idea is we're all doing this together. And that's why I feel honored to be able to have taken my pain and build a purpose out of this. And thank you so much for helping me amplify that.
My pleasure. Love you.
Love you more.